Yes,
Yes,
yeah,
we
yeah,
do
but not
Yes.
a chat like
But
this
not a
one.
chat like this.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
this is
pretty
like
cool.
family and business and
Yeah.
other things instead of the family stuff.
Yeah, it's all good. So now I get to ask all the questions. Since you don't know, that might have been a dangerous spot for me to be sitting. But in the meantime, we're going to get on with introducing Dr. Tonya Jackman Hampton, my cousin. She is an award-winning executive, speaker, and author with over 30 years of leadership experience spanning Fortune 500 companies and nonprofit organizations. She mostly serves on, she most recently served as Chief Human Resource Operator at UH San Diego Health and Chief People and Cultural Officer at Hennepin Healthcare. She is the founder and CEO of Sequel Consulting Group, LLC, and the best-selling author of The Myth of the Fearless Leader, which we're here to talk about today. A nationally recognized thought leader, Dr. Jackman Hampton is also a sought-after speaker, trusted consultant, and certified executive coach. Dr. Jackman Hampton holds a bachelor's degree in political science and pre-law for Clark Atlanta University, an MBA with a concentration in human resource management, and a Doctor of Education in Organizational Development from the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota. A breast cancer survivor, avid runner, and proud mother, Dr. Jackman Hampton is a Minnesota native who now calls San Diego home.
I know, right?
Her impact and leadership have been recognized through numerous awards in recent years, including Black Leaders of Influence in San Diego, that was in 2025, and 2024 Transformation Award, UC San Diego Health. In 2023, Top Women's Leaders of San Diego, Women's Are Admired, CHRs to Know, Becker's Hospital Review, Workforce Innovative Award, Minnesota Hospital Association, Women in Business and Career Advancement Honoree, Minneapolis and St. Paul Business Journal, Top Black Leaders in Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul Business Journal again. And then in 2022, Top CHR and Fountain Executive, HRO Today. And then we have one more here. Hey, actually two more. CHR of the Year and Distinguished Leader of the Year, HRO Today People in Healthcare Awards. And last but not least, Top 100 People to Know, Twin City Business. So, please help me in welcoming Miss Tonya, Dr. Tonya Hampton, as her wonderful intro to our world.
Minnesota in the list, and let's keep it real, your friend, your family member, all those things, community. And so I'm really thrilled for you all to be here and just real honored as I sit here in your presence and about to have this conversation about the myth of the fearless leader. I do want to be able to share with you some reasons as to why I wrote the book and sort of why now Minnesota. And so I choose sometimes to speak and sometimes to share some words that I've actually written. Because I have a little bit of a sense of particularity about what we will talk about and what I'll share with you. So not just as the author and a native of community here in Minneapolis, I have really been shaped by the history here and the history that all of us are a part of. And so I want to say thank you for your contributions, for your presence of being here, and it means so very much to me. I do want to absolutely underscore that Tracy is here, my cousin. I also have other family members here in the front, Marion Kennan. I've got my sister, my sister-in-law, forever sister-in-law, and my husband is back there taking pictures for me wonderfully. If I missed it, oh, Stacy and Jay, I saw them come in. If there's any others that I missed, I'm kind of scanning the room. Sean's a forever sister that's been here in my life for the last 30 years. I said, friends and family, and really appreciate now that you are here. If we haven't had a chance to meet, we are now in community together with each other. So really thinking about Minneapolis and why coming here again a second time, because I actually had a book launch back last October. And part of the why is I will always be back in Minnesota. This is home, my foundation. And second, being here in Majors and Quinn, a community bookstore that we don't often see too much anymore. And so to have the opportunity to be in this community and to be present with them means a whole bunch, as well as the notion of what has happened over our last about 10 years here in Minneapolis. And so a little bit of acknowledgement that I will say a little bit later about that as well. But the kind of the impetus and the foundation that I stand on and I am a part of is the leaders that came before us. And that is our grandparents, Cecil E. Newman and Leona Q. Newman. They both actually have an avenue here in South Minneapolis, which is not too far from here. And in addition to that, this has been a ground at which has had change as a result of the murder of George Floyd. And so that does not go unstated in terms of what has happened to our community, and I do want to say that it absolutely is reasons why I am here. The journalists really made an opportunity for us to have joy and struggle in the story sharing that we would have through the Minnesota Spokesman Recorder. And it is a foundation of who I am as a result, and it helps me to have a stronger voice. And I am confident, had it not been for my grandparents, I would not have had the voice that I have today, in addition to the family that I have the honor of being a part of. So I want to make sure that is understood. I will say too that from a conviction perspective, the myth of the fearless leader, to me, I think we put so much on leaders today to be fearless, and it's a narrative that we've constantly heard. And so my reasoning and purpose for talking about the book in a way that was humanity involved was to make sure that I underscored that it's really important that we give people a place and space to be really humble and to have authenticity, but not let that authenticity be trumped by integrity, right? No pun intended, but absolutely not one in which we are really giving up the things and values that are important to our society. I would say also that I wrote this book really as a way to think about the expectations that leaders have and to put ease and to give them a space to be courageous and wonderfully and fearfully themselves in a way that they are still leading forward in a good and honest way. So my book does not exclude the voices, I will say too, of all races. It includes everyone. I do have to acknowledge the fact that I am a black woman. I am speaking from that voice. And there is a perspective of that in there, but also the stories that are embedded within the book are myriads of different people. And they have very different roles within their organizations and very different people looking, if you will, in the world that we represent today. So I am proud of that and having the diversity that exists, no matter the race, gender, or what makeup the person has from their dimension of diversity. I will also say that from the community perspective, we have really encountered, as I mentioned, fears that have happened over the last few months, particularly the political violence that has happened to the assassination of some legislators that we've had. We also had a gender individual going into a bathroom and was not allowed until being questioned about their gender. And then we have situations of religion being questioned in terms of the ability to integrate that into our institutions. That's just to mention a few.
Yeah.
And so I mentioned too earlier the murder of George Floyd and the impact that that has had on us in particular. These are things that create fear for us as a society, as well as fear, while it certainly has teared us apart in many ways, it can bring us together. And so I'm thrilled that you are all here coming together to talk about this topic. So tonight I share the myth of the fearless leader with you. I want to recognize your history, our history, it's together, and know that the work that I have tried to put forward here is to help shape the future. Leadership is not about being fearless, it's about embracing our fears. And I leave you with this because too often leaders forget that their humanity is their greatest strength. I also want to say I am on a mission to address fear in society, not just in literature, but as an emotion that must be acknowledged, understood, and transformed. Fear is present when patients face their health care. Fear is present when we have interactions with one another. It also prevents equality and survival. It is to move into the ongoing disparities that we have and we face here in Minnesota and across the nation. Yet I understand fear can be a spark for all of us, and if we learn to see it clearly, it can become a tool of empathy and enhancing change and justice. So I appreciate your help on this mission. I appreciate also to see all of you and all of you that have gathered here in my hometown. So yes, this will always be home. And while I am enjoying San Diego, I am glad to be here and grateful for the opportunity to be with all of you present. Your belief I am grateful for in me, as well as your willingness to walk with me in this path. And finally, I do not think for 1 second, because I no longer live here, and I don't want you to think this either, that I am not deeply committed to this place. Minnesota is my foundation, and I remain engaged with you here too. Thank you.
All right. Are you ready?
Getting started.
All
Yes.
right.
Feel free to interrupt her.
Yeah. And she's really serious. So if you got a question, I mean, I'm just gonna start. I mean, the questions I have could probably take the whole time, and we don't want. A lot of times you go to different things, and you got lots of more questions than the person that's asking the questions, and you want them to get to theirs so you can get to yours. Well, if you got one, just stop me. I'll point you out, and we'll just keep rolling. How about that? Okay. So, Donza, what are you doing?
I was whispering to her.
Okay.
Family conversation.
So, there we go. Okay, so let's start it off, Tonya. So, what do you think? What inspired you to write The Myth of the Fearless Leader?
Yeah, we touched a bit on it, and on purpose to say a little bit more about it. Really is that I was in the midst of my dissertation, and I needed to get it done, to be honest. And so, while at the same token, though, my grandmother, Leona Newman, was dying of ovarian cancer. And I am the benefactor, she was my benefactor, education benefactor, along with my parents and my aunt and my grandfather, who allowed me to go on to college. If it weren't for that group creating a pack, I would not have had the opportunity to go to Clark Atlanta University. My dad actually, he's funny because, and he would have been here tonight, but he's like my dad, he's in Iowa. If you haven't met him, he's always on the move, no matter what. He's been in and out of rehab a little bit, actually a lot, but now he's home and has not paused a moment to go off to Iowa, so he's in Iowa. But at any rate, so the idea of really being able to consider what are the most important things to me, it was them, and I knew that while I was trying to complete this dissertation, I had a lot of fears in my heart and in my mind, but I also knew I wasn't alone. So I decided, with the support of my advisors, to go and ask questions of other leaders. What were their fears? What was their relationship with fear, and how did they respond to it? So that I could use that frankly, unconsciously, to support myself, and at the same token to complete my assignment. And so there I got it done, and that was 10 years, about a little bit more, before I actually wrote the book. So that was the inspiration, the initial inspiration.
All right, good. Well, what do you hope that the readers will take away from this book, especially leaders who feel they have to always appear strong? Because there's so many times where when we're leading, we always think we're vulnerable if we are weak. And so what inspiration do you think that you want people to take from this?
Yeah, having been in different roles in different organizations, and I'm thinking anyone can relate here in this room, it gets lonely sometimes, right? Like, to be able to have a conversation with someone and really tell them what's on your heart and mind, it's very difficult to find a circle that you can have a conversation with in an authentic way, and one that you can trust. And that trust is not about the trust that you have in people per se, but just you're watched, and we don't give place and space for leaders to have fears and worries and doubts without judging them. I was having this conversation with a good friend of mine the other day. It's okay to say that I was scared, right? Like if I said I was scared, we give people respect and we give them support when they are scared. But when we say that we are fearless, right? I almost tripped my own self up. There you go. When we say that we are fearless, we create a situation where people feel like, they are just small and that they can't do anything and they're not strong and they're weak. And that's not okay. Because actually it can be the impetus of why we have loneliness and why we feel like we are depressed or moody or we don't have a place or space to have conversation. And I believe that everyone should be able to express their emotions. Now certainly we have to be careful, right, in certain situations, but I wanted to be able to give people a place and space.
Nice, okay. So how did the process of writing this book challenge your own views on leadership?
Yeah, I would say that in many ways. One was that I, when I took one of my first roles that was national cross organization, I had to make a decision, and it was near about the same time that I was writing the dissertation. I had to make a decision to be able to look at different concepts, look up different business decisions, and sometimes make the harder decisions. Right, and I also had that juxtaposition whether or not somebody would or would not like me. And we kind of go around in the world and we say, I don't have to be liked. Well, I like to be liked. I don't know about you all, but I like people. And so I accepted the fact that maybe I actually do have to buy into the idea that you won't be liked. Because sometimes you'll say something and it may not make everybody, pleased with what you're doing, particularly in a large organization or when you're dealing with a number of people. But if I could sort of settle my heart and my thoughts in really concrete integrity, then I know that I could make the right decision and also, frankly, feel fear at the same time, that I was worried about not, providing an environment where people felt like they were included. And so I bought into the concept, and I talk about this in the book, of having this newly formed attitude. So not everyone will like you. I wasn't very creative, sorry. But that's what the acronym stands for. And so that helped me to accept that leadership can be one of those things where you, create an understanding for yourself and buy into the idea that you can still lead, and you may not be able to support everyone, but your intentions are good. Your intentions are good.
Well, when we talk about the workplace, so people often say vulnerability is a strength, but many workplaces still value being tough and unemotional. So how can leaders start to embrace and show vulnerability in these kinds of environments?
Yeah, telling more stories about their own vulnerability. And giving their colleagues and their team members a way to relate to them. Their storytelling is the first way to do that. Their colleagues and their team members can see themselves in them. We often look at leaders hoping to see something that we can relate to, or look at people. It's actually a human thing, right? That's how we connect, is by identifying connections and way in which we feel like we can relate to other people. And so if we can take the time as leaders, as individuals, and I talk about this too in my book, let me be clear, that I believe anybody and everybody can be a leader, right? And that we all have to start with first leading ourselves. And that's the leadership that's most important. And then you can, lead other people.
Well, this one is the question I really like, because I kind of, because then it starts to apply to me in a sense. So how does fear, both personal and systematic, play out in leadership, especially for women and people of color?
Yeah, so in the book, as a part of the process in writing Grounded Theory, which is, there's an academic flair to the book, no lie. And as a part of the Grounded Theory, as an author or as a writer, you have to participate in the research. And so that's why in the preface, if you haven't read it, this is one you might want to read. I say that a little bit with a kind of a smile, in the sense of there's a lot of me in there. And I am very transparent in sharing how I have 3 fears. And I put those 3 fears on the table to put the really harder ones out there that we frankly will not hear about when you read the rest of the book. And so other people that I interviewed didn't share, right? I think some of the harder fears. Not to say that they weren't transparent, but I think it gets to be a level of comfort of how comfortable did they feel in sharing some of that really hard stuff. And so at any rate, the 3 fears that I mentioned was racial anxiety. The second one that I mentioned is losing someone. So not death, but just losing someone. The very first death in my life that I remember was my grandfather, Cecil E. Newman. I was 5, and he had passed away, and I was in the pew when that happened. And I still have a very vivid memory of me being in the pew when he, well, it's not when he didn't pass right there at the church. I saw your look, your Kirsten was like, what? What? Yeah, no, sorry. I saw that look, thank you. Friends are awesome. So yeah, the memory I have was of me being in the church and sitting in the pew and being at a very young age, having to deal with that situation. And so losing someone. I also lost somebody very near and dear who I will not share who it is because I haven't necessarily gotten permission to share that fully public. I do write about it in the book and who that person is, but I'll leave it at that and say that it was very hard for me to have that experience. And I missed her dearly when she departed, but she came back home. And so I was thrilled to have had that happen. But it is a memory that I have, and it will always stick with me. And it underscores that I don't like the thought of losing someone. The third thing is that I also talk about just really illnesses and being terminally sick and ill. And I myself having, I don't want to offend people, but I was pissed when I got cancer. Like, I thought, why am I holding this? I thought I did things that I was supposed to do. I don't eat real healthy, but sort of, kind of healthy. Thank you, Tonya. Or Tanya. We do this all the time. So yeah, I eat relatively healthy, and I run regularly, and so I was just shocked that I had cancer, and so. Chronic illnesses, but I am happy to say that that's part of my mission, is I want to now use the model that I talk about in the book at both a macro and a micro level to be able to say, here is how organizations can deal with fear and how individuals can deal with it.
So what are some of the costs, personally and professionally, of maintaining the illusion of fearlessness? I mean, because you're trying to be tough, but there's sometimes a cost that
It's
you have to pay.
unnatural. It's unnatural.
Yeah, it's unnatural. And you lose credibility, don't you? Right? When you mention to people that you have fears and worries and doubts,
Yes.
it's not given credit. And so I'm sorry for that, and I hope that it changes. And if not starting in this room, right, beyond, so that we can continue to give each other space. People are suffering, and we need to be able to have conversations and accept people for being human. And so I actually too talk about in the book the idea of, unless someone's going to bleed or die, I should be given the opportunity to do something and share with people how I'm feeling.
And do it at no cost.
Right, do it at no cost.
Absolutely.
Underscored.
Yeah. So what are the practical steps a leader can take to create a more authentic leadership style?
Yes. So in the book, and I'm happy to say that last week I submitted a IP for it, so I'm excited about what will come. And that is a model. In the book, I talk about engage, explore, and execute. And also mention here that this model is used at both a organizational level. So if we think about systemic things that go on in organizations, helping organizations to engage, explore, and execute, as well as individuals and everything in between, or everyone in between. And so I use the work in my coaching with people one-on-one and group coaching. It can be used during strategic planning, even as an example. But the idea is that people will be able to leverage this in a way that we can put E's, so it's the 3 E's, fear, transformation, method, and model. Yeah, everything I have is long, sorry, my name is long. But that's what it is, and 3 E's, not as an E, when you see it in the alphabet, but EASE, so, right, because you can't necessarily put an IP on 3 E's, right, so that's in part, and so there's a bit of a play on it, but also putting E's to fear. And so the idea is that people will be able to use this on an ongoing basis to create change for themselves, their organizations, their teams. And I want to bring this to healthcare, where, no surprise perhaps, because I've spent most of my life in healthcare, but people, giving them the opportunity as a patient to have conversation about their fears is really important. There's actually organizations, one in particular that I'm working with right now, that is talking about taking the fear out of healthcare. And so giving people a place and space to talk about it so that we can change their access, their desire to want to get care is another example. I think I got some of your question in there.
Yeah, I think you got some of it in
Okay,
there. But you mentioned organizations, so that was just kind of a lead into the next question. As I ask, how can organizations support leaders in making space for vulnerability without undermining confidence in their leadership? So that's a tough one when you got people that are leaders and you're trying to keep them with their head up high, but they have this vulnerability. So how do you do that? How does a corporate organization do that?
Yeah, and I'll tie it back to the last question you asked too, and share this more in smaller steps of what is your fear? Right, ask your colleague, what's your fear when they're getting ready to do an initiative or strategy or project that they're working on, what's your fear? Don't stop there, right, ask them, what are the things that they are good at? And how can they learn from the past? Or what did they fail at in the past and learn from that? Right, and so that's the part of the really engaging and having conversation. The explore starts to be when you are giving them ideas about what you have experienced in life and whether you were good or had a failure and what were your lessons learned. So when we are in conversation with one another and dialogue, we can identify different ways in which to solve problems and address, issues or go after an initiative or a strategy. And once you have those ideas, then you're starting to shift into the execution phase and really think about your plan and move forward and execute. And you don't really stop there. You go back, and it doesn't always have to be linear, right? You can identify, again, ways to refine what you might do as you approach something new or a similar circumstance.
So how do you get one that's a leader and they're tough from the outside anyhow to identify a fear? Because sometimes you don't know that you're afraid of something that you don't know you're afraid of.
Yeah, and I connect this to the times, maybe each and every one of you can relate, when I am sitting around and coming here today, I'm jittery, I'm excited, I don't know if I'm fearful or if I'm really excited, but I'll tell you, the thing that confirms for me that I'm excited is not the sweat, it's just the nerves won't stop. I'm really excited and I just want to say something and I want to be with the people that are around me. And I realized one of the times that I was at Medtronic, as I see a dear friend in the back, I was sitting in the audience getting ready to get up and talk, and I was not certain, as I am describing now, whether or not I wanted to do it, and was I scared. And I realized that I actually was excited, and it was because I was, just feeling all this energy as opposed to just shaking, so to speak. And you'll have to find your own emotions, your own body movements, your own actions that are going to help you register one way or the other. And as soon as I was called, I realized that it was the anticipation of waiting to actually get up there and talk was what was really nerving me. And then once there, was excited, right? Wanted to be there, and similarly be here with all of you.
And so that explains to me now why you emailed me and called me and my cousin wanting to have a meeting with me and do we want to have a meeting and get on Zoom, and I'm like, why? Can we just talk on the phone? And is it that formal? So now I get it. I get that was nerves. Okay. So remember that now. When people start doing things that are kind of out of character and you're trying to figure out why, it's just kind of, and then today she sent me an email. Well, did you get my email? And what time are you coming? And I'm like, I got your email and I responded. I said I'd be there between 6:30 and 6:45. So I get it now. I get the nerd part. I got it. Because I thought maybe you just got losing your mind. Okay. Are there particular exercises or habits you recommend for leaders trying to unlearn fear-based leadership models? Did I ask you that question already? I don't think I did. No.
No, you didn't, but I would relate it to unlearning, accepting that we have fear is a start, right? And acknowledging that that emotion exists, and then being able to name it. I have actually given mine different emotions that I might have names. I have also developed mantras in my life to be able to evolve, and one in particular, it came to my understanding that it was going to be a mantra and a life mantra. My mom used to always say that whenever I would call her or our siblings, my siblings, as if there was somebody standing next to me, a twin sister or something, I said our. But my siblings and I would call my mom and tell her about something, and she would say, you know what, everything's gonna be okay. Like everything's gonna be okay. Yes. And so mom was on her last few days in the hospital. And my aunt came to me and she said, you know, you should sing that song that you sing all the time. I can't sing. But sometimes I kick a little verse and I will sing the song. And she said, just, you know, go do it. And I didn't necessarily feel it at the time because, you know, again, mom was in the hospital and had been in there for a week. And we weren't sure at this point if she was going to come home. And she hadn't been talking. And so I went to her bedside after my aunt told me, but it wasn't immediately after. It was maybe about an hour later. And so I went to her bedside and I began to sing. Or sing. And so, this is my sister, you figured that out. And so I sang to her, and what was so beautiful is mom sang with me. And so, you know, it will be something I will always remember. It is the very reason why I have a tattoo of every little thing is going to be all right on my wrist. It is also the very reason why I pierced my nose again. The first time I pierced it, it didn't go so well. I was younger, and it turned into a scar. It was a root. It turned into a root, is what she called it. But at any rate, I did it in honor of her, because mom, at the time when I pierced my nose, she pierced it. And she kept hers, so she had it for many, many years, and passed with it. And we actually removed it.
Don't look, because
She let hers heal.
I didn't work out.
Yeah. You got a root? You got a root. Okay, got it. So yes, that is the story of that.
Did you know where you were going with that question?
No.
Oh, okay. All right, let's go to the next one. How does your work address the intersection of race, gender, and leadership in the workplace?
How did I say in the beginning?
How does your work address the intersection of race,
Oh,
gender, and leadership in the workplace?
yeah. And so to connect that to the previous question, I will say that my mantra you figured out is every little thing is okay, or it's going to be all right. And I will often use that as a motivator to be able to address the tougher conversations. And there was a time when I had, and I talk about this in the book, chapter 4, paragraph 1. Without naming specifically anything, because I don't want to get political, I had to go and speak in front of employees. We were doing a huge transformational project across the healthcare system that I was at. And I was excited. We named the idea of having conversations about race and being able to have really these open conversations, dialogue with team members. And there were 150 leaders that we had involved, every single leader involved in the process of having these conversations. And so on the night that Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were up against one another, I stepped onto the floor in the morning after listening to NPR, and NPR says, and Donald Trump is now our president. And what worried and concerned me about the idea of having the conversation with all the people I was going to talk to was all the stories that were or were not around him at the time about race, and are around him and not, and are around him or maybe not around him today. And so I, however, said, you know what, I will lead in this process. And I will have my fears and worries and doubts, but every little thing is going to be all right. And this will be a time when I will, hopefully create an environment where people feel like they are included regardless of what they believe in.
Or at least be able to open the door for more conversation.
Absolutely.
Which sometimes it just needs
That's
that
all
start.
that's all that needs to happen, is just to
Absolutely.
open up the conversation.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
So what additional burdens do leaders from underrepresented backgrounds face when trying to lead authentically?
I think they lead, from a place of pain sometimes. I also think that they have a situation where they're not sure if they want to take the risk. But if they can identify what emotion that they are hearing, then they can more likely respond to it in a way that they can create a plan.
Okay, all right, and that needs to happen when you're there. In your view, what does real inclusive leadership look like? Not just surface level actions or diversity checkboxes, I love this one, but the kind that actually makes people feel seen, heard, and valued.
Yeah, one of my biggest pet peeves is that diversity inclusion is a program, and in fact it more are adjectives and a plan for moving forward and creating environments where people can feel like they are included. And so that's first. The second thing is, from a humanistic perspective, is embracing individuals. And I really try, whether or not I'm successful every single time, but to connect with people, because I believe in starting with love. And I didn't start out that way always, at least intentionally, until I actually worked at an organization called Cook Ross. And one of the values that they had was love. And so it gave me affirmation that loving people from the beginning is okay. And then you walk away from that if in fact there's, certain circumstances that can be created where they might create pain. But my hope is that we can eliminate that one by one, if you will. And that if we can start with a place of love and try to trust people from the beginning, we might be able to create more inclusive environments. And I think leaders can do that by modeling it and being open to their colleagues and their team members contributing to that, and even in our families and in our homes, friendships.
And I think that love is a good place or a good thing to have. I have to question the authenticity of the businesses really having that kind of love. So the question is, we as leaders that are in these organizations that may say one thing and have that box they're trying to check, but don't really feel that way, that's when we have to take our fear, which I've seen a lot of people do, hang on to it, and not utilize that fear to turn it into strengths to really stand for what they need, and kind of be able to stand your ground. And sometimes it's scary because you don't know where that's going to land you. It's going to land you out of a job, or is it going to land you where people are hearing you? And sometimes you have to make that decision. What's more important? Are you going to stand for something or fall for anything? And I think a lot of times that fear is something that people fall for anything versus standing.
Yeah, I agree. It shows the work that we need to do.
It does. So so we're coming down to the end of my questions as people hopefully are thinking about some of their own work. I think we still have time and we're supposed to wrap up this
No,
portion.
you're right on cue.
Oh, great. So what has surprised you most in how readers or leaders have responded to the book?
Yeah. Rooms like this, to be honest with you. I didn't set out to write a book, and I was encouraged by my husband as a starting point.
Nothing like a strong man to kind of encourage you. That's nice.
That's right. Yeah. And, he said, I wrote a book, so you should write one.
That's why.
Yeah. And what surprised me is people have appreciated both a combination of being able to reflect and read. And I took a risk at that because I've also seen people write workbooks afterwards. And I need your judgment. Should I write a separate workbook? Raise your hand.
Yes.
Okay, all right, because it's in contemplation, and so I may do that, and another thing that is in the works, it's an audible. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah, to listen to your voice, because I'm doing it in my own voice, and to do that for so long. Each session is an hour and a half. And then we go back and edit. So we've made it all the way through, and I think, I didn't count, but maybe there's 6 of them that we went through. And then you go back and you edit. And so I'm guessing probably October, November it will be available.
Yes.
Don't let that hesitate you if you want a copy of a book, because you won't get a signature on that. That's not the speaker that speaks for me, the marketing person. That wasn't me.
No, that's well, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of leadership advice, what would it be?
I like to play a little twist on this question because I've been reflecting on it a lot. I have had, as I'm thinking, we all have had experiences where it's the WTF moment. And so I've had a couple of those moments, and I'm very grateful for the young girl that patted herself in a way that I gathered up all the things I possibly could learn to lead, and that I also took time to save money, because I am proudly, I haven't reached the quote unquote retirement age, whatever that is, and I'm retired, and doing my own thing, consulting, coaching, and speaking and convening, particularly with healthcare organizations and patients. And so I say thank you to my young self, and I would tell her to, really say what are the important things to you around your own emotions. And you could be fearful. It's okay. It's okay.
And give yourself that permission. So I know you mentioned early on about your influence and who was the kind of the motivator, the motivating factor, or the inspiration, I should say. And you mentioned a few names: your grandmother, your grandfather, your mother, your father. But if you really had to boil down, I know, I'm sure it was me. I'm just saying. Also, what voices, authors, mentors, thinkers influenced your leadership philosophy the most?
Okay, I'm gonna say maybe 2 or 3. Is
Oh.
that okay? But what? I know there's one. In the book
You
that-
said voices,
but
so I'll go with that.
the one that comes to mind. The
All right.
one.
All right.
I chuckle because her name is actually named in the book twice. I figured it out after I was going through my acknowledgments. Michelle Miller. And Michelle Miller is a person who I will always hold near and dear to my heart. She was the individual, along with another pair of hands of someone actually I still stay in touch with. He's in San Diego, ironically. Rick Carrion. He was a business leader at Medtronic. So the two of them created the first opportunity for me to move into a executive position, so director position at Medtronic. And that, in addition to the many lessons that Michelle taught me, or didn't teach me for that matter, because she has this way of looking at you. I think Tanya can contest. And without her in the room, and she'd be here, but she wasn't able to come because she had another commitment. She just taught me many things and influenced my philosophy. So I will mention her, and maybe I won't mention others. There's so many others that I could mention. Folks in this room, people not in this room, ancestors that influenced me, and cousins that braid my hair. So, you know, it's, yeah, lots of people.
Well, sometimes that old saying goes, it takes a village, so
Yeah.
sometimes it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this to kind of make it all happen. So it's not surprising. Sometimes you just think that's that one voice that you kept hearing that was really it. But when you boil down to it, it could have been lots of voices. So we're at the end of
We're at
my
the end.
questions, with the exception of one question.
Uh-oh, I got a really room down.
What's next for you? Any future books or projects
Yeah.
in the works?
What's-
Other than your honorable
Yeah.
you were talking about.
Yeah, so I can't think of much that hasn't been named. I'm going to continue to have fun, enjoy the sunshine in San Diego. I will be back often. My daughter's still here, my father's here, my family's here. And so all the reasons, friends are here to come back, and this will always be home. And so in addition to what I've shared, I do have some things that are in the works and sort of in the oven, cooking as it might be, and I look forward to being able to share those things with you, some of which you already know about, but it's just making it, sort of the little big. And that's not my saying. There's actually a very dear person that I can think of that is doing that now, Sarah. She leads with the coven.
All right. I like that. The little big.
The little big.
Questions? Tanya.
Okay, so my question is this: you do your perspective, as you said, as a black woman, but my question is, do male leaders accept this or have a harder time, showing fear? Because I think there's that whole how men are socialized in our society to be strong and not show fear. So I was wondering if, I haven't read the book yet, I just got it, but if you have examples of men in there, or whether or not men receive the book the same way, or can actually be, acknowledge their fear.
Yeah. So yes, the people that are in the book, a couple of them are in senior level positions. So there's a CEO that I interviewed, a board member that I interviewed, both were males. And they, along with, as I think about all the different conversations I've had, have expressed their interest in the book and support of it. But I also will say that the people that have been more vulnerable with me have been women. They'll share with me that there has been a change for them, or that whether they really appreciated the work. I'll look to my husband in the back and put him on the spot, who read the book. And he had a surprising response for me, but I don't know if you'll hit exactly on it, but would love if you would share your response.
To the book?
Yeah.
At first, like you said, it was kind of scholarly.
You're being waved up here, not just by me, but other people are wondering.
At first, it was scholarly, but after getting past maybe the first two chapters, it became more of a journey, like I was on a journey with you, and that I was learning not only about your experiences, but then I could relate to some of my own experiences in regards to where you're put in a situation where, as you brought up earlier, Tracy, fearful of saying, should I say this, should I not say this, and what you're saying regarding as well, as a man, I'm supposed to be, strong, upright, and whatnot. Thanks to her over time and being married to her, I've learned to be vulnerable, and that is not a weakness, it is a strength.
Thank you.
Yes, I am.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
And I invite anybody else, yes.
Yes, a question and a statement that, yes, a lot of us men are afraid. that's just what we've been taught since we were boys. If we were just to be honest with ourselves and with women too. But my question is, how have you, I want to say, managed to present yourself, or I would say stay courageous in a patriarchal system, in a misogynoir position, since you are a black woman? And a number of black men, we've been taught that bullshit about, yeah, we gotta be strong, tough, yada, 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 which oppresses us from being our true selves as an individual. So what have been some of your challenges in overcoming those challenges as you dealt through a man-made world? You know, white men, of course, but especially us black men partaking of it as well, and other men, of course. So what has been some of your challenges and, of course, successes in a way?
Yeah. Okay. You can answer too, but feel free to. So one of the number one things I do, honestly, is, and it got more consistent over time, is taking care of me. And what I mean by that is carving out the time. And so when I accepted the opportunity that Michelle handed to me, I, at that moment, decided that in the morning, I was going to carve out every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, my time to run. And so I informed others in the household, as well as people at work, that that was what I was going to do, and I might be at work at 8:30, 9 o'clock, instead of having an 8 o'clock meeting. And you know, it's taking a risk, because my boss might have looked at me and said, not a good idea, right? You know, and then I would have needed to be prepared for an answer for that. Luckily, I hope, based on conversations I'm having, is that people are feeling a little bit freer to do that. And, you know, that might have been one of the blessings of COVID. I don't know. But nonetheless, that's the one thing, is that I really, over time, just got really clear that I come first. And whatever that looks like for any of you, I extend that, and you know how you're utilizing that today. You know, I pride you on that, and I just try to be consistent with it. And there are other things too that I try to put ease in my life, so that I'm not worried about the smaller things. I am not a person that's going to fret over what necklace I will wear. I will probably be wearing that same necklace and that same bracelet, just because it's what simplifies me. And then I don't have to worry about making that decision, because quite honestly, you know, a small decision like what I'm gonna eat when I'm out with my husband, it's kind of crazy, because we go back and forth. Where do you want to eat? Where do you want to eat? Where do you want to eat? Now, where do we go? Where do you go? And so those types of smaller decisions, actually, if I am able to lighten them for myself, then it helps me to take on harder challenges, and to not sweat, which is another message in my point, the small stuff. And small can come in many sizes, because you have to be able to, you know, right, brush off some of the things that are pretty significant. But if I can find ways to simplify, I've also been informed that I tend to be a very calm person, and little do you know, the duck, her legs are going underneath the water. And I'm constantly thinking. And so what's my strategy? What's my plan A, B? My dad constantly has ideas, and so I learned that from him. And, you know, what's your plan? And so try to be a couple steps ahead of people.
It's interesting that for Black women, so often there's the trope that we are superheroes and impervious and have to be strong. And there's also the trope that we're like extra passionate, loud, expressive. And recently in a conversation I was having and expressing fear after the murder and assassination of Melissa Horton for my friends, someone said, well, I have zero fear because I'm rooted in Christ. Mm-hmm. And it really struck me as a person of faith. And I'm curious if you've had anyone who has, especially within the Black faith traditions, has pushed back against the notion of accepting fear as a natural state of being.
Yeah, absolutely. And the response that I provide back is that fear is a right emotion that we all have, and in fact we need it to help keep ourselves safe. And any interaction or anything that you do, we are making that decision consciously or unconsciously in our mind as to whether or not we feel comfortable or not, or we're worried or not. And we feel more comfortable with words like worried or not, or comfortable or not, rather than feared or not, right? Or, we might accept scared more. And so I try to have the conversation with people. I haven't quite had the response that you've provided, but I would say that in my interactions with people, when they've talked about they don't have fear, I say, I think you do. You just haven't met it yet. Right? So, or you're avoiding it.
Yes.
Yeah, you're in denial.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
haven't identified it being fear, because
Yes.
sometimes fear turns into anger.
Yes.
And you're ready to cut somebody out when it's
Yes.
really that you're having a fear factor going on.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And so emotional intelligence is so important. Because if you aren't aware of what your emotions are, you won't be able to regulate them or moderate them or minimize them. And I don't think fear should go away. Because again, we want it as a mechanism, right? An emotion to keep us safe. Thank you.
We do one more.
We got
See
one
one
more.
over here. One more. Okay. Oh, you were just saying one more.
No,
All right,
she had her hand up.
Speedway
She had
and
her
then
hand up. Can we get
then
two more?
Tanya.
or we-
Sure.
Two more.
You're the last one.
I wonder if it feels like over the past, let's call it 5 years, there has been an increased willingness in the workplace to talk about vulnerability. I wonder if over the course of your career you have seen a shift. You started by mentioning things that have happened, let's say, in the past 10 years. I wonder if you've seen a shift in the willingness of people to either be receptive to the expression of fear in the workplace, and whether there has been, in your own experience, a time when you expressed fear that backfired.
Yes. I'll end on that one. Yes, and yes, I have seen change, and Brene Brown, talks a lot about vulnerability, authenticity, and a more recent one that is on my mind, and I have the wonderful delight and opportunity to meet her, is Eamon Amundsen. She talks about a fearless organization. And so those individuals like that have influenced the minds and thoughts that leaders have, and also within the workplace, and giving us an opportunity to have conversations. I look at a dear friend, Dawn, who talks about fear as well, and we are in this place and space where we know that there's a way to influence people because we've seen there being an impact, and we've seen people change before us and within our own environments. And so, yes, I do think so. And I also, with the old adage that I don't always like to say, but it's a fact, because it can sometimes just be hard to realize no matter what we do, we still have a lot of work to do. Yeah. And with that I equate having conversations about people and supporting them and creating inclusive environments to brushing your teeth. We do it every single day, and we shouldn't stop. Because we do, right, if we do, we can get cavities. And so it's a lifelong journey. It's something that we have to keep up all the time in order to influence so that people can feel comfortable in places and feel like they are included. And it starts with acknowledging fear and emotions.
We got one left.
And my other namesake,
Yeah, Tonya.
Tonya.
I think this is more, less a question, more a request for another conversation, but in terms of working with healthcare organizations, all of the fears you mentioned, terminal illness, death, those are, I've been dealing with those in the last few years, and the providers that are most helpful are those that show show emotion, and that starts from the leadership, so I'm really happy to hear that you're working in that space. I don't know, I think it's a tough nut to crack, so I'm curious how hopeful you're feeling.
Yeah. There are days when right, there's a deep, deep valley, and there are also days when I'm looking, right to the sky and believing that there is a way to influence. And I'm not giving up. With all of your strength in this room, I appreciate, and the other places that I've been and faces that I've interacted with, to see people really rallied and excited about this topic, makes me feel really, really strong and the ability to create change. And so, until I die,